you in Middle Tennessee with you, whatever time you have for us this afternoon. We certainly appreciate it. We've got 3 full hours together from noon until 3. We hand off to the drive with Brian Wilson at that time of day, and he carries the torch until 7 o'clock tonight. That is information-fueled and opinion-driven news talk radio for the masses on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Let's get into it with the pleasantries. It's Wednesday, October 11. Is it Wednesday? Yeah, it's Wednesday, October 11, 2023. My days run together. It is our episode 432 of these proceedings. We'll tell you the title of the episode coming up in just a moment. You're invited to listen on a platform of your choosing, whether that be on traditional radio, maybe you're streaming on the internet, anywhere that they stream radio stations and whatnot, anywhere they stream. You can find us at Supertalk 99.7 WTN. And then if you are so inclined to look at my ugly face for 3 hours, you're welcome to do so on Supertalk TV. That's on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and find that anywhere that you go on those 4 platforms by typing in Supertalk 99.7 WTN. Like and subscribe. We would appreciate that. It is episode 432 of the proceedings. And the title of today's episode is
The Matt Murphy Show, Solving the World's Problems, one coexist bumper sticker at a time.
Well, that's true. The problem with the coexist bumper sticker is the C is trying to eat the rest of the letters with a fair amount of regularity. And we will discuss, obviously, the latest developments in Israel and in the surrounding areas of the Middle East. 615-737-9986. 615-737-WWTN. That's the way to communicate directly with the broadcast. You may call us, and I've just put those calls off block. You can also super text us on the super text line that is always up and running. Already people are asking me about the Andy Ogles interview. You missed the Andy Ogles interview? Andy and I made good. We had a little disagreement during his political campaign, and I didn't back down, and he didn't back down. And so Andy was absent from my portion of the broadcast day for some amount of time. I had some questions regarding some of the activities early on in his tenure as the 5th Congressional District Representative. Those questions were answered, and it came to some form of détente at a mutual gathering together. And then he's been on the show since. So perhaps he will be on today. I'm told that if he has any time, he will give us a call to let us know how he voted and what the outcome is on the speaker's election that is apparently ongoing, and I'm looking for confirmation on this. I have a number of super texters. I just switched over one of our monitors to try to catch it, and I can't get anything but news from Israel. But I'm told that the Republicans have decided on, and obviously House Republicans control the gavel if they are united in their effort. And if they divide, then they do not. House Republicans have nominated Steve Scalise to be the next House Speaker. And according to breaking news from 22 seconds ago, he has to get 217 votes on the floor of the House of Representatives in order to become the next Speaker. One crosses one's fingers. One prays to your God, our God, that Steve Scalise has the physical ability, the physical stamina in order to take on this job. Had I the vote, were I making the selection, I would have picked Jim Jordan over Steve Scalise. I believe he's a little bit more of a pit bull, a bulldog, with regard to the manner in which he tackles some of these issues. But I do believe Steve Scalise, as a representative from Louisiana, is a sight more conservative than Kevin McCarthy ever was or ever will be. And with that in mind, perhaps he'll be more consistently positioned to give some conservative voices the ability to get to the floor and get amendments and other processes onto the floor of the House of Representatives.
Wasn't he majority whip?
He was majority leader. He was majority whip before he was majority leader.
Well, I was just saying, when you're a whip, you basically have to go out there and, tell people what they're going to do. And that would probably serve him well as Speaker, having had that experience.
Yes, you are also working, one would suggest that if you are at that level of leadership, that you are working somewhat at the pleasure of the Speaker of the House. You're actually working at the pleasure of the body, but you have to work in concert with the Speaker of the House in order to advance any majority agenda. So for some, this will be too much of an establishment selection. I think calling Steve Scalise establishment, for me, that's a step too far. I mean, I don't know that he fits that traditional role, I had a conversation with someone just earlier today where I said that, and I won't name names, but because it was a private conversation, I mentioned, well, Steve Scalise is not the most conservative individual in the House of Representatives. He's more conservative than Kevin McCarthy, but he gets a lot of grace based on what happened in Alexandria, Virginia in 2017. I mean, the man was literally shot and almost killed, so he gets a little space to breathe. And the person that I was talking to said, yeah, but other than that, what's he done? Okay. I'm nothing. You know what? He just got shot up. He just got shot up because he was in House leadership. That's all he's done. My retort at the time was, well, what's Matt Gaetz done? And the response was, well, Matt Gaetz has he booted Kevin McCarthy. And I said, oh, yeah, and got a Steve Scalise. So there you go. It kind of comes full circle if you think about it. But that's politics out of Washington, D.C. Steve Scalise has won the GOP nomination for House Speaker during a secret ballot vote. And one would anticipate that this does not mean that this is a foregone conclusion, by the way. There are plenty of ways that the Republicans could screw this up over the next 10 to 24 hours. It remains to be seen exactly when this vote is scheduled to formalize his nomination as Speaker of the House and to put his name up. Obviously, the Democrats will put up Hakeem Jeffries, and he'll get whatever Democrats in the body to vote for him. And if all of the Republicans remain united and together, Steve Scalise will be your next Speaker of the House. I'll give him a little grace. I am concerned. My central concern about Scalise as a selection, I don't have any concerns about his credentials or his bona fides. I think he's a good man. I've had an opportunity to sit down and talk with him. Is he as conservative as some? Like I say, no. He's far more conservative than Kevin McCarthy on a personal level, but that's not the role of the Speaker of the House anyway. The Speaker of the House is there to offer fairness and consistency with his conference and his body. One way or the other, my main concern is his health. And Steve Scalise, in addition to the numerous surgeries and the numerous issues that resulted from his shooting in Alexandria, Virginia in 2017, you also have the issue with his blood cancer. This is not, we joke around about they work 3 days a week and they're off on Mondays and Fridays. I mean, one of the central jobs for the speaker is to raise money for the conference. In raising money for the conference, you promote the election of what we would presume would be conservative Republicans around the United States of America, or at least Republicans around the United States of America. And that takes a lot of effort, energy, and work. And one wonders if Steve Scalise has the physical stamina in order to endure that. My main concern is his health. Brian writes in on the super text line. You're welcome to do so, by the way, 615-737-9986. The one thing Steve Scalise did was get shot and still vocally support the Second Amendment. That's a win. Well, Steve Scalise was never going to change. I don't know that he was ever going to change his position. The irony of the shooting that happened in Alexandria, I'll tell you a quick side story on that. At my radio show in Birmingham, Alabama, and I'm not here to put myself in front of the parade in any form or fashion, but we had that story 30 minutes before the major networks had it because I was texted by Mo Brooks while he was in the dugout during that practice. His text to me was intended to his wife, but it got to us because we had been texting, I suppose, the night before or whatnot, and in the chaos that ensued after the gunman opened fire on that ball field, Mo was attempting to tell his wife that he was okay, and then he told us he was okay, my radio partner and myself, and then we began communicating with Gary Palmer, who was also on the field that day, in addition to Mo Brooks, and discovered that this shooting was ongoing. For those that have not investigated the backstory, or if you were not familiar with it, Steve Scalise was the most injured that day. He almost died on the field. But for his presence that day, Steve Scalise, he was the only one with Capitol Police security that day because he was in leadership at the time. I think he was majority whip at the time. And so, ironically, his presence saved the lives of so many people, but it also almost cost him his life and permanently, obviously, altered his health situation. It was believed that he would never walk again. He eventually did. He still walks with assistance with a cane. But my goodness gracious, what an incredible day, and how ironic and tragic that but for his presence, so many people would have surely died. And Gary Palmer later on took me onto the ball field and described what happened and where the shooter was and where the Capitol Police were. They would not have been there, once again, had Steve Scalise not been there. There would have been no security on the ball field. But thank God they were there, and lives were saved as a result. Steve Scalise is going to get a lot of grace from me because of that. RFK has announced, and this is something that happened a couple of days ago, and we were unable to get to it considering some of the news that we were covering. Robert F. Kennedy is running as an independent, and I would suggest to you that many liberals are trying to talk them into ways that this hurts Trump and helps Biden. I do not see any way that this does not hurt Joe Biden and by effect help Donald Trump. We'll get into that today. We will talk once again. We've been touching on the Franklin mayor's race from time to time. Franklin is a huge community in the metropolitan region. Many of you live in and around the city of Franklin. You're observing this mayor's race. It's ongoing. Early voting's ongoing. And there is yet another chapter in the drama that is Gabrielle Hansen, a woman that I've spoken to on the radio show. And I've determined, in my opinion, one guy's opinion, I don't live in Franklin. I don't get a vote. But let me tell you, in my opinion, Gabrielle Hansen is not fit to serve. Based on my conversation with her, I don't have to rely on anyone else's opinion about Gabrielle Hansen to have my own opinion about Gabrielle Hansen. Yet she consistently demonstrates that she's not fit to serve. The latest, her inability to denounce neo-Nazis and to denounce association with neo-Nazis. That's not that hard, by the way, to denounce an association with a self-proclaimed neo-Nazi group. Not that hard. So we'll discuss that on the show today. Morgan Ortagus, who is a former member of the Trump administration. She ran briefly for the 5th Congressional District nomination, eventually won by Andy Ogles. She will stop by to talk about Israeli-Palestinian relations and the war in Israel ongoing at 2:05 this afternoon. She'll be in studio. Before that, you want a little good news, you'll get a little good news. Bethany Van Meter will be along to tell you the story about River, the sightless dog. She has written a children's book about River. I had an opportunity to meet River and Bethany in Hendersonville some weeks ago, and I'm excited to have her on the show at 1:05 this afternoon, along with her illustrator, and we'll tell you all about the book and all about River, the sightless dog, coming up at 1:05 this afternoon. Your telephone calls all day, your super text all day, as we just get lumbering under our own weight this afternoon on Super Talk 99.7 WTN and the Matt Murphy Show. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy for Tennessee Men's Clinic. Ladies.